Welcome, beautiful Texans. It's the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. That late start was Garrett's fault. I want to go ahead and get that down on the record. We have big news starting off the James Show. We're going to be previewing tomorrow's VP debate. Now, the vice presidential debate in the political world is more like Jenga. No one can win. You can only lose. You know, it doesn't matter what these guys do. If you have the best debate performance ever, no one cares. And no one's even going to remember it in 2 months. Now, what you could go out there is just lay a big fat egg and ruin, maybe not even ruin, just kind of dampen enthusiasm. You can hurt your candidate that's at the top of the ticket, but helping, it's not to say that, it's not going to be nice to see people explain some of their ideas and their platforms with a little specificity. But overall, it's not going to change anyone's mind. So I'm not saying it's worthless. I'm not saying it's not historic. I'm just saying don't expect too much. Historically speaking, you can't tell me a VP debate that's had a major influence on the final vote. But it's still history. We're going to talk about it with my least favorite guest. Blonde Kamala is back on the James Show. Blonde Kamala, just try and give me a for real answer to any of these questions today, okay?
Of course, I will.
Man, that was a long one. All right, Blonde Kamala, starting off, have you helped in the preparation for Tim Walz in the debate tonight?
Well,
tomorrow. I'm sorry, tomorrow.
Let me be clear. First of all, I fully expect that Tim's going to do a great job, okay? And he's entirely prepared. And he's going to take a very holistic approach and just deal with the issues holistically. And it's going to be great, right?
Well, hang on a second. Holistic. That's the same adjective you used when describing your approach to lowering the cost of housing.
Right. And that's the thing that we're going to do. And, it's the thing that we have been working on and will continue to work on. And, this is something for the American people who have dreams and aspirations and things that they want to accomplish in life, right?
No, you didn't. No, just... All right, next. I'll just go to the next one. Forget it. So we are 36 days away from the election, but it's been 71 days since Joe Biden dropped out and you've been the front runner. Still no formal news conference. You haven't answered questions from the press, unedited, unscripted, unstaged. Are you going to do that before the election?
Well, to your point, right? There's the election coming up. And people are going to be voting, and people will be sharing what they believe and what they want for this country. And, and I believe that we are going to do the things that this country needs to have done. And, when I have made many, many appearances in different places, talking to different people, they have all shared the same sentiment, right? That I have, and that is we're going to win, okay?
Do the things, and long laugh. So I wanted to run something by you. Now, I can't take credit for this. The genesis of this nickname comes from my wife, Miss Parker.
Hi, Miss Parker.
She refers to you now as an air bidet. Do you find that offensive?
Well, listen, when people come up with words and names and different types of things, that that means nothing. And it's not like we're gonna find where she lives and where you live and send anybody over there.
None of that. Do you have
not at all.
Vice President, do you have a bidet?
Well, listen, the things that I have and do not have are things that many Americans have and also do not have, right?
Stop! I hate that so much. It's probably what you would say in real life. So if you are ordering a pizza tonight for you and Doug, what are you putting on it?
Wow, that is such a great question. I like a lot of different toppings, right? And Doug, he likes whatever I tell him to like, right? That's, you know what I'm saying?
Probably true. That's probably the best answer so far. All right, real quick.
Anything.
I've got time for one more. We better make it important since you're running for the most powerful position on planet Earth. Out of your new kids on the block, which one was your favorite?
Listen, I got to be honest with you, James. I'm a Snoop Dogg fan. Okay, give me a little Snoop Dogg.
He's not new kids on the block. There's 5 of them. Because I was, if I had to peg you, you were one of the Danny Wood people, and we all look at you funny. Because right, no one's favorite new kid is Danny, isn't that right? Except for the people fronting.
I'm gonna give it to you. Danny's the one for me. Okay. But don't tell Doug.
I knew it. That's like people lie when they're like, Ringo's my favorite Beatle. No, he's not. That's no one's favorite Beatle. All right, Elsa Kurt, turn your chair around and come back, and let's meet the woman behind the best Kamala Harris impersonator. What you got going on outside of making fun of the vice president?
Well, hey, my friend, how can I have anything else going on when she gives me so much material? I mean, I can't even take a breath without her coming up with something new. Holistically is my favorite, though. It really is. I mean, I try and work that into every conversation now. Brilliant
to work that in there because she acts like I have kids who are in grade school, and if they learn a new big word, they use it like 100 times over the next 48 hours. And I feel like she just learned the word holistic on Thursday, and we just had to hear it for 48 hours. So good stuff. Tell them about your show online.
Thank you. We are the Elsa Kurt Show with Clay Novak. We're on Thursday nights at 9 p.m. That's Eastern Time. And, we have a great time. We talk about all the latest goings on. It's with a conservative spin, of course. And, we have a great time over there.
Well, the good news about Kamala winning is we'll probably hear from you more. So that's a good sign.
Yes. Listen, I'll be happy to retire.
There she is, Elsa Kurt. Find her on the Elsa Kurt Show online. Coming up next, we're going to do a little VP debate preview, and I want to ask you, what are you expecting to see at the vice presidential debate tomorrow? 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. Really what I'm asking is, what would you like to see at the vice presidential debate tomorrow? 800-288-9227. You can call in with your trap questions. You can call in with a topic you like to bring up or something you like, a quick little punchline or nickname. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Man, I was about to talk about this anyway, and I look up at the TV, and it's what's happening on Fox News right now. I see Peter Doocy asking questions to KJP, Karine Jean-Pierre, about the reaction to the Hurricane Helene. And look, there's been some criticism. It's up to you to decide if it's rightfully so or not. But Hurricane Helene, normal circumstances, of course, there's a political angle. It's always going to be to this. Does the president show leadership and compassion and empathy? Really unimportant, boring, superficial reactions are usually carried around by the media and really your neighbors and stuff. Like the people who aren't deep thinkers, they're like, he looked presidential out there. Stop. But we are just a little over 5 weeks away from the election. 36 days. Now it's not just about, does the president look presidential? We barely care what the president's doing these days. This guy is just a forgotten dude floating around, and he's still doing like interviews and, I mean, not a whole lot of public stuff. But you've never seen a president ignored like this. What's happening now? How are the candidates reacting to this? And it does have a little bit of an effect, because if Joe looks completely incompetent here, that could tamper some enthusiasm for the Democrats in 36 days. Let's hear that question from Peter Doocy to Karine Jean-Pierre. This just happened like 4 minutes ago.
On Helene, people in Western North Carolina were drowning in their houses this weekend. Others were losing everything. President Biden was at his beach house, and Vice President Harris was hosting political fundraisers on the West Coast. Is there a reason that they could not be here?
The president did exactly what a president in this moment needs to do, which is directing his team
hang out at the beach
to take action. One of the reasons that the FEMA administrator was here in this room on Thursday is the president wanted to make sure that we were sending a message out to folks who were going to be impacted by the hurricane, and also wanted her to share how we were pre-positioning on the ground. Remember, these are folks who do this type of stuff. When you think about FEMA, you think about the Red Cross, you think about the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. This is what they do. This is what they do. And so the president was on the phone. He said this when he was asked a question by one of your colleagues for more than 2 hours yesterday with governors and local elected officials, making sure that they had what they needed.
I'll play that audio in a second.
You heard me talk about Governor Kemp and what he said to the president himself. He said this and shared this in a press conference, that the president has provided and said, what else do you need? And he actually said to the president, we have what we need. So, and that's, as you know, a Republican governor. And I talked about how the vice president also did her calls. She's going to be going to the FEMA agency and the center to get her briefing later this afternoon. The president is continuing to have these conversations.
Meaning she hadn't been briefed
with folks
yet.
on the ground, elected officials.
All right, go ahead and pause
sure
here.
that they have what.
Oh, that was great. So go ahead and do the Hardy Boys logical deduction with me. If she's going to finally get briefed on the hurricane sometime later today, that means she hasn't been keeping up with it. She hadn't been briefed on it already. This hurricane hit last Thursday, and what did she do? She went through a bunch of western states going to some rallies, but mostly fundraisers. And now she's just coming back on today, Monday. So Thursday when it happened, didn't care, no briefing. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now sometime later today. This is what a big chunk of the news was focused on yesterday while you were out being a normal human being, going to church or whatever you do on Sundays, day drinking, mimosas, Sunday brunch, I don't know. But Trump had a rally in Pennsylvania on yesterday and then went down to Georgia right after that. This morning, he gave some remarks from one of the disaster areas, and he's down on the ground. And look, there is a legit pushback saying, well, there's not a whole lot the vice president can do. There's not a whole lot a presidential candidate can do. Trump can do anyway. This is all political. This is all just grandstanding. Well, hell, at least they're grandstanding for the guy who actually is supposed to do something. He's just chilled on the Delaware beach, and I'm talking about Joe Biden. And when KJP was referring to earlier at a press conference, he answered those questions. No, he went out and he gave prepared remarks, and then he was doing that weird Mr. Roboto shuffle out of the room, and someone stopped and was hollering questions at him, and he took him 6 seconds to turn all the way around. You know, it's like the batteries are running out on that toy that you got at Christmas. You know, it's just barely turning around, and he gave this little weak old response, and she's saying, "Look, he addressed the questions." This is what he said. It's not going to make you feel better, by the way.
Do you expect Iran to retaliate? On the hurricane, Mr. President, why weren't you and Vice President Harris here in Washington commanding this weekend?
I was commanding. I was on the phone for at least 2 hours yesterday and the day before as well. I command. It's called a telephone. All my security people.
Is it not important for the country to see?
Yeah, why didn't you go back to D.C. and take control of this thing? Hey, I was on the phone for 2 hours yesterday. Dude, I was on the phone for 8 hours yesterday. Were you even trying? 2 hours, please. My kid spent 2 hours on the phone just in the car on a regular Friday. He's not doing anything. He sat at his house somewhere else. And KJP, you heard her in the press conference we played almost live. It was happening just as the show was starting. No, he was directing people. He was doing what a president is supposed to do. Sit on his ass on the beach and tell someone else to take care of it. That's what he's supposed to do. Again, I know it's just a photo op. I know it doesn't really change the outcome of the people's lives on the ground in Florida, in Georgia, and even up in North Carolina and whatnot. But all other presidents at least know. Play the game. At least pretend like you give a damn. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Now, this matters because this is going to come up at tomorrow's debate. The vice presidential debate often has news of the day popping up. And right now, what's the narrative? Well, what's the preferred narrative and what's the truth are two different things. I should have been a little more specific on that. The truth is Donald Trump went down there before Biden, before Harris, before Walz. I don't remember where JD was at yesterday or today, but that's what the truth is. Now, how are they going to spin that? I don't know. Like you could say that just the normal stuff. Well, it's just a security hassle and it actually slows down aid if a president gets involved or whatever. I'm not buying that. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. If you have any comments on the hurricane relief. Coming up next, I'm going to talk to a lady from the Heritage Foundation about getting our energy sector back in line, and it's going to start with the vote that's happening in 36 days. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. When you check out the polls, I'm going to go ahead and spoil the ending here for you, because the question you're going to have to start asking yourself is if the Republicans keep making progress with minorities, what happens when minorities start supporting Team Red as a majority? What happens if they become a Team Red constituency? Ooh, what'll swing states look like then? What will major cities look like? Will every major American city go red? Hang on. We'll have that discussion, and you can jump in 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. But to see why I'm asking these questions, all you got to do is check out the latest polls. Harry Enten was a dude on CNN earlier today. I got this from this morning. He started out talking about demographics that aren't like gender or race or anything that's an immutable trait. He was talking about, started out with union votes. And union voters are moving toward Trump.
This is union households. This is Democratic margin in presidential election. It ain't what it used to be. You know, you go back to 1992, Bill Clinton won that union vote by 30 points. Hillary Clinton only won it by 12 points back in 2016. That was the lowest mark for a Democrat since 1984, Mondale versus Reagan. But look at where Kamala Harris is today. She's only leading by 9 points. That would be the worst Democratic performance in a generation. 10 points off the mark of Joe Biden, who of course won 4 years ago, was sort of that union guy, Union Joe, right? Won it by 19 points. She's 10 points off his mark, and the worst in a generation if this, in fact, holds, Sarah.
Yeah, so not big fans there. The other big group of people who, not the professional class, not the white collar, but the blue collar side, there's union voters, and then there's also the trade school voters. And check out how these demographics are playing out.
Margin among vocational and trade school grads in pre-election polling. Bill Clinton was leading that vote over George H.W. Bush by 7 points. Look at where Donald Trump is today over Kamala Harris, a 31-point advantage.
Damn, dude. So Bill Clinton was winning that vote. Now Trump has a 30-point advantage with trade school graduates. Okay, so these are people who work for a living. These are people who have real jobs. These are people who don't have rhetorical jobs. Like mine, it doesn't matter. If I mess up at my job, no one gets hurt. But if someone messes up building a building, it collapses, kills a bunch of people, or a bridge collapses or whatever. They have real jobs. Doctors have real jobs. They screw up, somebody dies. I don't. The people that have real jobs, 30 points in favor of Trump here. And then Harry Enten moves on to voters of color. And I didn't know if that fit because we're talking about non-immutable traits.
And this is part of a larger trend that we're seeing throughout our politics, Sarah, in which Republicans, specifically Donald Trump, is doing very, very well among working class voters, whether they were in unions, whether they went to trade school, or whether they're voters of color.
Yeah, so when you take out the professionals and the voters of color, it becomes even more stark. In fact, they're starting to lean toward men. Now, you scoot over here to Steve Kornacki. You may have heard that name. He pops up on MSNBC and regular old NBC News quite a bit. And he was looking at some of the Latino votes, and they're moving toward Trump as well.
Well, among Latinos, our poll shows Kamala Harris leading Donald Trump 54 to 40%. 54 to 40 now is a 14-point advantage for the Democrats. Take a look back at the last three presidential elections, and these were the results in the exit polls among Hispanic voters. That 14, look at that cut there, almost 20 points less than just 4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago it was 33, down to 14%. And here's the fun news. When you look at just men, Latino men, Trump's now tied.
Men tied when it comes to this race. Women, a 26-point advantage. Again, among Hispanic voters here, there's a gender gap, as we see with polls of overall voters.
All right, so now let's put our thinking caps on here. Because if this trend continues, then the Latino vote is going to be pro Team Red. It'll transfer from Trump to whomever else, or let's just assume that for hypothetical purposes. Once that happens, think about what happens next. Have you thought about that? Have you thought about what happens the second 55, 60% of Latinos start voting for Trump? I bet you they shut the border. Number one, I bet you that's like the first thing that happens is, oh my goodness, the borders got shut down immediately. The Democrats will even support it. In fact, the Democrats are going to be so freaked out, they'll probably build a wall that looks like that giant wall from Game of Thrones, right? To keep the Northmen out or whatever. They're going to build a wall so big that it's going to have to be guarded by Jon Snow. That's what's going to happen first. But no, jokes aside, what happens if our black neighbors and Latino neighbors start voting for Team Red over Team Blue? No, I'm serious. First thing that's going to happen, every major American city is going to become Republican. I should say almost every major American city, because then the question is going to be like, okay, well, do you have more academics in your town or do you have more minorities in your town? And that's going to be sort of the counterbalance, because just other white people, just to use the incredibly vague term, we're pretty split down the middle here. But if you have minorities, which tend to congregate in urban areas, not being racial here, it's just that's what the facts are. That's one of the big reasons so many of these cities are blue. But if white people start voting for Team Red just at 50 or 55%, New York City is going to be a red city.
New York City!
Dallas.
New York City!
No, not New York City. Dallas will be a red city. Houston, if you have Latinos and blacks, Houston's where white people are a minority in Houston. It goes overwhelmingly red. And then what happens for all of these states where all of the counties are red, except for a couple of hyper blue metropolitan areas? What happens if those hyper blue metropolitan areas go red? The whole damn state goes red. How on earth do Republicans lose a presidential election after that? Well, there will be a shift in policies, but this will force the Republicans to go a little further to the right and the Democrats to go a whole lot further to the right if they ever want to win another election again. Your predictions on what happens if these trends continue. What happens if the Republicans keep making progress with minorities? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Now listen up. You got a chance to win a trip for real. This is going to be to Vegas to see the Scorpions at Planet Hollywood Resort. Compliments of Live Nation. It's our new big contest. You can text the word SEND to 95819. All right, Scorpions fans, you want a free trip to Vegas? Text the word SEND to 95819 for your chance to win. Listen for your next clue starting at 5 p.m. today. For a full list of contest rules, go to WBAP.com. I'm taking your calls next. It's James Parker on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Let's go. My next guest is Aaron Pomerantz, and while I'm going to watch the vice presidential debate and report back to you, historically speaking, these things haven't had much of an impact. I do feel like there's sort of a Jenga effect on this year's vice presidential debate. That being, someone could lose the election tonight if they make a big mistake, but no one can really win it by doing awesome. What do you think about that one, Aaron?
I think that's actually a really good take. There's so much about this election that is just fakakta. It's so not typical of previous elections. And typically we'd say the vice presidential debate just really doesn't matter except for maybe one or two memeable moments. And I think you're right that no one is going to win it. But between Donald Trump's performance in the last debate and his refusal to have another one, and the overall clandestine nature of the Harris campaign and how much of it has focused on Tim Walz, either candidate for VP could matter a lot more than previous VP candidates have in terms of the public perception. And it's made all the more interesting by the fact that both men have a habit of speaking a solid several seconds before their brain connects and leaving a soundbite that they are then left scrambling to explain. So for the more cynical among us, it could also be more entertaining than a lot of previous VP debates have been.
Do we expect the moderators to be much of a factor?
I don't know. I honestly don't. I think that there has been enough criticism of ABC's conduct during the last debate that there might be some more gun shyness to at least actively take Walz's side. But that really depends, because I don't think anyone was really expecting the relatively blatant nature of last debate's misconduct by the moderators. So that's a real up in the air consideration, unfortunately.
All right, so the debate is going to happen tomorrow, but it's been my experience that the real effect of the debate takes about 48 hours to see how the media digests this. Is there any chance the media is going to come away with any other narrative other than Walz is awesome and Vance is weird?
I think half of it. I think you've hit on half of it. I don't think Vance is going to be able to recover from his relatively weird output. He's, especially the last couple of weeks, he just keeps doubling down on things that do make him look weird. I'm not sure they're going to be able to walk away with Waltz being awesome, though. Waltz has also dropped the ball a lot more than Shapiro, I think, would have. I would be very curious to see how the Harris campaign feels about this particular decision. And Waltz just also, on paper, he does a good job of looking better than J.D. Vance because he has home field advantage. But he's not about to keep home field advantage in the sense that he's going to say what he wants to say, and even if there's a delay, even if there's a spin, there's no editor the way there is with the written word, if you get what I'm saying. So,
I do. Well, just moving on to the next topic here is something I've also noticed from previous debates is that the news of the day, they often trying to weave that in there. So I'm thinking, well, this hurricane, and not necessarily the hurricane itself, but more of the reaction to the hurricane, you think that'll come up in tomorrow's debate and be much of an issue?
I think so. Ordinarily, I would say yes, but I think if they bring it up, it's actually going to be a real boon for the Trump campaign if they do. I think Donald Trump has done a really good job of trying to grab this by the horn, say it's not a moment for politics, use a lot of his own personal resources to help with this. And because Harris is a part of a sitting administration, she hasn't had the chance to react as much. I think also the fact that Trump, even though he's a New Yorker, but he keeps his states in Florida, I think he's going to maybe have more of a local connection that the Harris campaign doesn't, that even though Vance is from Ohio, he'll be able to capitalize on that potentially. And so I think that I think both people are really going to I think both Waltz and Vance are going to try to be fighting for their candidate. They're not really fighting for themselves, right?
Sure.
And I think Trump walks in with I think Vance walks in with a bit of an advantage when it comes to defending Donald Trump.
Makes sense to me. Aaron Pomerantz, thanks for being on the show. Where can they find your work outside of WBAP?
Hey, you can find me on APOM92 on Twitter.
Thank you very much. APOM. Maybe we should just call him APOM for short, like A-Rod, APOM. That's a cooler nickname. All right, your thoughts, 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. We're 36 days away from the election. What do you think is going to happen at the VP debate tomorrow? Will it have any effect? What would you like to see? 800-288-9227. Coming up next, I'm going to do an interesting review of how Saturday Night Live has sort of shifted in their politics. Coming up next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, welcome back to The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. So glad you're here on a Monday. Don't worry, we'll get through this. It'll be Friday before you know it. Also, keeping the eye on the clock for you. This is a service we provide on The James Show. We are counting down to the next election. 36 days. That's where we're at. 36 days. 5 weeks and 1 day. It's been 71 days since Kamala Harris has been the nominee. Still no formal news conference. I'm kind of excited to see if she can go all the way through. We can have an election where one of the people on the ballot didn't go through the primary process, didn't go through the primary debates, did one debate so far with her opponent in an incredibly friendly scenario. No press conferences, no long form interviews that aren't pre-recorded and edited where you're pretty sure she had the questions in advance. I mean, just the least amount of accountability, the least amount of exposure and understanding and communication between a candidate and the American public in your lifetime. That's what's about to happen. Also, coming up in the next segment, we're going to play Dead or Alive. And you'll have a chance to win a family 4-pack of tickets to the State Fair of Texas. That's where I was on Friday. Had a great time. Thanks for all the people that came out. I think I'll be there again this Friday. I think it's this Friday and Monday, like a week from today. I'll double check that, and I'll be telling you the official liners, as they call them, in a day or two. But right now, when we're looking at what's going on with the election, when we look at what's going on with technology surrounding the election and how this is playing into your life in 2024, that's different than the past elections, is every good idea for a parody song is now at our fingertips. When I started in radio, we had the internet, but I hear stories about people in the generation before me in radio. If someone made a good parody song in Seattle, you didn't get to hear it here in Dallas. If someone made a good parody song in Chicago, you probably didn't hear it in Fort Worth. If someone made a good song in Houston, you probably wouldn't know about it. Oh, but now we know all of them. Now we get to pass it around, and every good idea, if it's good enough, it'll get passed around on its own merits. I have to give credit. This didn't come from the WBAP newsroom, but Mike Traina told me about it. So Mike Traina sent me a link to this one. I hadn't seen it yet. This is a parody called Border Czar, but it sounds like the OMC song How Bizarre. Remember that guy? How Bizarre.
From the wackos on the left to the MAGAs on the right, they know I'm beating Kamala. This race won't even be tight. Her policies are nutso. She's out her goddamn mind. She just repeats the same thing, regurgitating her lines. She thinks that immigration without paperwork is good. Clearly not too much power underneath Kamala's hood. Borders are. It's what you are. Borders are. Borders are. Cackling so Kamala, good. You're dumb. Mass inflation imminent if she weasels herself in. If that don't sound like fun to you, then you better help me win. I promise I'll secure you, you'll be in better hands. It'd be a flippin' free-for-all with what Kamala plans. Borders are, it's what you are. Borders are, borders are. Laugh it up, Kamala. This lady, she's cackling crazy.
All right, these people are so talented. So isn't this AI thing great? You know, I thought when we got to 2024, we'd have flying cars like the Jetsons or whatever. No, we just have really good parody songs. That's the trade-off here. Flying car or cell phones, you know. Look, the thing that intertwines this with the news isn't just the fact that it's election related. It's also the fact that Donald Trump's voice in there, obviously AI'd out, makes you think, wait, wasn't Gavin Newsom just trying to pass a bill in California that outlaws AI in ads and political ads? Well, why? Because it's effective. That's why. Because it's an effective tool for the common people to mock the elites. It's a tool because now we can mock them not only with like parody, but with their own voices, sort of. I know it's not like really their own voice. But this is some powerful stuff, and there's no real good explanation. Gavin Newsom or anyone else who wants to outlaw using AI in ads, or especially political ads, other than you don't want them to make you look like a fool, because it falls under free speech. The Supreme Court and all these other tertiary courts under it have always agreed that parody is a protected form of free speech. So why not AI? AI is so useful. They don't care if you use AI to trick people in telemarketing calls. They don't care if you use AI to trick people in the drive-through window to take your order. Hi, my name is Sarah. Would you like a number 4 today? You know, just the obviously AI that they're trying out on you. They don't care about that. They only care about AI tricking you when you're mocking the elites. This is why. Because geniuses like this will make a Border Czar parody that's hilarious. And it's not just funny like, oh, look, that sounds like Trump making fun of Kamala. No, the words in there, it actually has a message. He didn't say anything wrong in there. He didn't say anything that was factually incorrect. He didn't say like Jesus rode a dinosaur or anything nutso like that. Now, it was peppered in with cute little insults like, you're dumb, you know, things like that. But that's why they want to fight this. This song right now that you're hearing, great example of why they don't like AI in political ads. Listen.
They know I'm beating Kamala. This race won't even be tight. Her policies are nutso. She's out her goddamn mind. She just repeats the same thing, regurgitating her lines.
Now, she has been repeating her lines, right? That holistic thing she repeated. What can be unburned by what has been. I was raised in a middle-class family. He's right. He's right. She is repeating her lines. She's not saying anything of substance. She's been trained. She's been coached. That's why this is effective. And then with a little like at the first course, when you hear Trump just go, "You're dumb." Like, I have a feeling like that wasn't an AI. They might have just pulled that out of one of his speeches and spliced
She thinks
it in.
that immigration without paperwork is good. Clearly not too much power underneath Kamala's hood. Borders are, it's what you are. Borders are. Cackling Kamala, you're dumb.
There it is. That's the one I was looking for. The "you're dumb." Hilarious. Now, we also have the parody action happening with the other songs, where like the old Nirvana song, "I Think I'm Dumb," parody that with Kamala.
I'm not like them, but I can pretend the sun is gone, but I have a light. Nothing is done, but I'm having fun, and I think I'm dumb, or maybe just happy. I think I'm just happy.
Dude, how do they make the voice go with the cackle go with the song?
Happy. I think I'm just happy.
God, that's so effective. Do you know, this is kind of stuff I think about when I read about what happened in like the French Revolution, or even in the American Revolution, or any time in the past, going through the Roman Empire, like how butthurt tyrants get when you mock them. How mad it makes them, how they'll raise an entire village or wipe an entire tribe off the face of the planet for mocking them. And of course, everyone who becomes a tyrant in a position of power, I don't want to say everyone, but 99% of them, they all come up with laws that make it illegal to mock them. In America, we can still mock them. You can't do that in every country still. There's still plenty of countries where if you mock your leader, you're not going to like the results. There will be legal action taken against you, and in some cases, you might lose your head still. Not in America. It's beautiful. And it's effective. Coming up next, Dead or Alive. And then I'm going to spell out for you how SNL has taken a turn. The comedic juggernaut of SNL is turning a little bit of a corner. And I'll don't get too excited, but I'll spell it out for you next. 800-288-9227 if you want to play Dead or Alive, where I'm giving away tickets to the State Fair of Texas. 800-288-9227. I'll say it again. 800-288-9227. Dead or Alive next on The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey there, all you beautiful Texans. Welcome back to The James Show. It's News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Yeah, let's go. We are just a day and 4 hours away. 28 hours away from the vice presidential debate. My next guest, Debbie Schlussel. I bet you're not too excited about tomorrow's debate. I have a feeling that nothing's going to happen. Like the debate will happen tomorrow night, and Wednesday we'll wake up. Life will just go on as normal.
I have a feeling that paint drying is a more interesting watch. I think it's going to be a total bore. It's these two guys that I think are not great choices on either side. And it's going to be boring. Most vice presidential debates, you don't remember anything about them. The only thing that I keep seeing over and over again, and I do remember it when it happened because I was watching on NFL, to remember was when Lloyd Benson said to Dan Quayle, I knew Jack Kennedy, and Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine, and you're no Jack Kennedy. And it got a lot of laughs and claps and all applause, but guess what? They lost.
They lost, and they lost pretty bad.
Right. Dan Quayle became the vice president. Nobody cares about these. The only time I think it really was as consequential as people might pretend it was when Sarah Palin debated Joe Biden, because Sarah Palin was, thought to be ignorant, and I think she did okay. She was fine. Joe Biden actually said at that debate that wasn't true. He said we beat Hezbollah and it was defeated. No. Israel did that.
Debbie, we're having some phone issues. Is there anything you can do to clear that up? Like maybe tilt your head to the left or lean out the window?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, of course I can hear you when you say, "Can you hear me?" That always works.
Sorry. So did you hear what I said about Sarah Palin and Joe Biden?
We heard Joe Biden lied. He said we defeated Hezbollah, which we know is a lie because Hezbollah is in my next question.
Right. Israel mostly defeated them, not completely, but they decimated them a lot in the last week and today. Now they're invading. And Joe Biden got that wrong. He didn't know what he was talking about. Unfortunately, Sarah Palin didn't know enough about it or anything about it, in my opinion, to even call him on it. But she did okay. I mean, people expect her to not be able to, hold her own, and I think she did fine. Nobody cared really once that happened. It didn't matter, and it didn't matter anyway because they won. The Obama team won, John McCain lost, and that was that. I mean, I just don't think these are consequential at all. They're pointless, really.
Oh, no, totally agree. Okay, so next up, the hurricane response. You see Trump already down in Georgia giving statements, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris nowhere to be found. You think that's going to mean anything to the voters? Because these are some sort of purple states it's hitting, not so much Florida, but Georgia and North Carolina. Do you think it's going to have an effect?
I mean, I don't know. I do remember when there was Hurricane Katrina, and George W. Bush did not go out there right away. And he waited a while, and I think it looked really bad for him. And I think it doesn't look great for Kamala and the demented guy. It doesn't look good for them. I think the fact that Trump is out there is he's showing leadership, and I think the people who he meets, it'll touch them maybe, and the people in those communities. I think it means a lot, even though none of these people, when they go out there, really can do much because they're not the ones doling out the money. At least, it's kind of Congress and FEMA and so on. I think it means a lot, the personal connection, that you go out there and you show I was there. You don't just wait and then, I think that's a big deal.
Your thoughts on Israel invading Lebanon today?
I think it's great. I hope that they continue decimating Hezbollah completely. I don't know that that's going to happen because, unfortunately, most of the Christians, who, by the way, most of them don't like Jews or Israel, and a lot of them have allied with Hezbollah over the years. People don't realize that. They think Christians against Islamic terrorism, not necessarily.
Yeah, because the non-allied Christians left Lebanon.
A lot of them, yeah. What they called themselves the Phoenicians, the people that were the allied, they had their own allied forces. They had their own alliance. And those people did leave the Christian alliance. Most of those people are gone. Many of them went to Israel to live. And the ones that are left, they side with Hezbollah. A lot of them have chosen General Michel Aoun as their leader, and he was a close ally and friend of Hassan Nasrallah, the now on his way to the 72 Helen Thomases or 72 virgins.
Gross.
By the way, the new head of Hezbollah, Hashim Safieddine, he has a lot of family here in the Detroit area, and they own gas stations. I mean, they're first cousins. They're very close, very tight. There are a lot of people here in the Detroit area tied to these Hezbollah terrorists. When the Jewish Community Center in Buenos Aires and the Israeli embassy there were blown up by Hezbollah in the 90s, their cousins here in Dearbornistan, took blood tests to show that who it was because they were proud to be related to this guy. There's a lot of ties here, and it's very scary.
That doesn't make me feel a whole lot better about Michigan.
No, it's not good. But, by the way, I just want to point something out because Trump, former ambassador and advocate Richard Grenell, wrote this whole thing about how the woman running for the U.S. Senate, Alyssa Slotkin, she's a congresswoman, said that Kamala Harris is underwater in the polls here in Michigan. That may be true. I don't know. It may be true. But he's saying it's because the Arabs in Michigan don't like Kamala and they're voting for Trump. That's baloney. They don't have that kind of power. I'm telling you. When they voted uncommitted and such a big deal is made out of it, around the same amount of people voted uncommitted when they were mad that Hillary Clinton wasn't on the ballot against Barack Obama.
And we know how that turned out. Yeah.
Yeah. So they just don't have that power. It's being exaggerated because the mainstream media, including Fox News, by the way, wants to change the U.S. pro-Israel policy. And they want to make it look like, oh, you got to pander to these Muslims and these Arabs because they don't like Israel. No, you don't. You can win elections without them. They really have very little significance at the polls here in Michigan. They don't have a lot of sway.
Right. And then the Real Clear Politics average in Michigan has Harris up by 1.4%. Debbie, thank you very much for joining the show. Joining the show today. Where can they find your work outside of WBAP?
So on Twitter at Debbie Schlussel, on Instagram at Real Debbie Schlussel, on Facebook, Debbie S as in Sam fan page. and WDoesPolitics.com.
All right. Remind me to look up the Phoenicians story that you referenced. I don't know a whole lot about that, but man, it sounded interesting.
It's another name for the Christians that do not side with Hezbollah and actually are righteous and sided with Israel.
All right. Good stuff. Learned something from Debbie Schlussel today. Coming up next, I'm asking you. You answer the same question Debbie just asked. Are you cool with Israel invading Lebanon? Do you think we're about to spark off World War III? Do you think this is an escalation too far? Do you think we should withdraw support? Or really, the question is there any level of escalation that can make you lose support for Israel? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. We'll talk about this next on The James Show. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.